Hi, welcome back to another video. Today I just wanted to kind of go through my garden. I just got back from my sister's. I was in Saskatchewan for 10 days and I just got back and I just wanted to kind of go around and show you what's been going on since I've been back. So to start, I've pulled out all of my garlic out of my garden, and I'm just going to take you into our back shop and show you what I have done with the garlic. Okay, so this is all my garlic, and what I've done is we had these wire racks that were left behind when we purchased our property, and so I've just put them across on this countertop that we have in the back shop. And this countertop, we actually use that when we're processing our meat birds, so it's not being used. I put these racks across it, and what I'm doing is I'm letting my garlic dry out for a couple of weeks. Some heads are definitely bigger than others, but they all in all, I think they turned out really well. So I'm just going to let them dry. I have a few little garlic cloves that broke off when I was digging them up. And I think once they're dry, I will just reuse those and plant them back into the ground once I have a bed ready for my new garlic to plant in the fall. Okay, so this is the bed that I pulled the garlic out of. And I still have a couple of plants in here. They're my small little eggplants. Like I say, I don't know if they're going to have enough time to produce any eggplants. Probably not. That little plant in the middle, that's an okra plant. And again, I don't know if it's going to produce anything. So my plan is I want to plant some spinach and some radishes in this bed here. Okay, so what I've done is I've picked the garlic out of this bed, and now I'm going to get it ready to be able to plant. I want to plant some spinach. My sister and I, we did a seed swap out at her place, and she gave me some red kitten spinach, and it's good. It will mature in 33 to 39 days, and I think that'll be just enough time to be able to have some spinach and be able to pick some before our first frost hits us. And I'm also going to plant some radishes. She gave me some cherry bell radishes, and I have French breakfast radishes. After I pulled out my garlic, I took my, it's like a 5-prong claw, and I dug it in and turned the dirt because it was, you know, compact. The garlic has been in here since last fall, so I kind of dug it up a bit, and we got quite a thunder, lightning, and rainstorm last night. We ended up getting an inch of rain. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a well-balanced fertilizer. It's a 5-5-5 ratio, and I'm just going to add some to the top of my soil, and then I'm going to work it in with my little rake that I have here. So let's do that first. And I'm only going to put about a cup in here because I'm only doing 3 rows, 2 rows of radishes and 1 row of the spinach. But I'm going to do it in between my plants. I have an eggplant here, okra here, and 2 eggplants over there. So I figure that I can do my row of spinach across here. And this is a 3.5 to a 4-foot row, and then I'll do the 2 rows of the radishes over on that side. So I'm just going to sprinkle this fertilizer over this area over here, and then the same for over on this side. where my radishes are going to go. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rake that in a little bit into the dirt. And what this will do is it's going to help give the nutrients that these seeds we're going to need, because I mean we've just had garlic growing in it, so you know garlic is a pretty heavy feeder, and it's probably depleted a lot of the nutrients that was in this soil. So I'm just giving it a little bit of boost before I put in my seeds. Okay, that should be good. Okay, then what I'm going to do is I have this stick, and I'm just going to make a little row with my stick. It just fits right in here, and I'm going to push down on it into the dirt, and then I have a little divot of where my seed is going to go, and it's a pretty straight row. And then I'll do the same thing over here for my radishes, and another one over here. Oop, I've got one of my Jiffy fiber pots is in the ground here, and then there's another row for my other radishes. And I need to take these gloves off because I cannot plant seeds with gloves on. It's virtually impossible. So I'm going to start with the red kitten spinach. I'm going to space my seeds out to about 3 inches apart. I don't really, am not going to thin out these seedlings once they take. So I'm going to space them out a pretty good distance. And I won't need to water because the soil is definitely wet enough to germinate these seeds. So that's the red kitten spinach. Now I'm going to do the cherry bell radishes. I used to grow cherry bell radishes. I haven't grown them for a while. And these were the ones that I got from my sister. She just gave me a few, and I don't need very many because we are coming into the end of the season. So I just figured, oh, I'll just grow a few radishes before the season is over. I'm just gonna, I'm just spacing these out 2 to 3 inches apart. I'm gonna go over to the other side. I don't know what it is. I get out here and I'm gardening and never fails. It always seems like I have to blow my nose. I'm gonna have to bring a box of Kleenex out and put it in my garden shed because I don't know how many times I've been out here trying to do a video, and the next thing you know, I'm sniffing all the time. There we go. Okay, and I'll just plant these. This is the French breakfast that I'm planting. I like the French breakfast. I have a good success rate with it. That's usually my go-to for radishes. Just put the rest of these back in the bag. And I will have radishes in under a month. It usually only takes about 3 weeks. And then I'm just going to cover these up. You don't need very much soil to cover it up. And then I'm going to cover up the spinach. Got some clumps. I'll just break those up over it. Cover up this spinach. And then we'll move on. Just wanted to take a look at my tomatoes. When I came back, my tomatoes were just overgrown. I had to come and thin them out. But look at these. This is my chocolate sprinkles, and I have just tomatoes upon tomatoes, just branches of tomatoes. And then this is my New Girl tomatoes. They look amazing. I've even got another one over here. And there, my calendula has finally opened up. I was so surprised about how things were growing that it was awesome. Here's another thing. I have a tomato coming out the back side. So what I'm going to do with this, so I have this reel of this stretchy tie kind of tape that I use for tying up my tomatoes, and I break off about a foot of the tape. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie this to this support, because I just don't want my tomatoes to have the branch snap when this gets loaded with tomatoes. So I'm just tying it up, and then it will stay up there a lot better. So that's better. And then over here, these are my natural black cherry tomatoes. And look at that cluster of tomatoes coming out on the side. They're just loaded with little tomatoes. And then next, there's a whole another branch of tomatoes. And then underneath here is a cluster of my oxheart tomatoes. And here you can see I got a pretty good sized one growing right there. They're actually doing better than they did for me last year. It is a different spot, so maybe that has something to do with it. And I've got more tomatoes growing on the back side of it. So I have heavily pruned these tomatoes. It was so congested in here with tomatoes, branches, and I have just thinned it quite heavily out, and that just gives more airflow and less chance of disease for it. Here are my carrots. I've got flowers on my pumpkins, more calendula, and I have a zinnia that's about to open. But look at this, my corn. I even have some ears forming. on my corn. I'm really excited. I haven't grown corn in years. And then here we have my zucchini. Again, I have heavily thinned out and pruned out a lot of the zucchini leaves. And what that does is that has more airflow. It reduces the blight that you get on the leaves. This is my Peter Pan squash, and I just want to show you. Look at that one right there. It's huge. I'll have to come out and pick that. And then I have not very many tomatoes growing in the back here. And what I thought this was a carnival blend, well, it's definitely not carnival blend because those look more like a cherry tomato than they do carnival blend, which is a part of the Brandywine variety. So that's definitely not carnival blend. And then this is my green zucchini over here. And if I lift up these leaves, I actually have a green zucchini growing right in there. This is my Aunt Ruby's German green. And I've got a cluster of tomatoes there. Another little cluster up here. And then these are the Brandywine tomatoes. And they definitely need more time to develop. In front of my tomatoes are my jalapenos. And they are producing lots of jalapeno peppers. They're just loaded with peppers on them. So that's awesome. Over here we have the broccoli. And this one here on the right, it's just starting to form a head. So that'll be growing within no time. When I came home, I ended up having to pull out my butter crunch lettuce. It had gone to seed, but my kale is still doing amazing. Picking off lots of that. Over on this side is my red romaine, and this is still producing lots. I picked a bunch of romaine leaves off of there, and you can see that's my golden Detroit beets. I've got a pretty good sized one going in here on that side. And if I come over on the other side here, these are my cylinder beets, and they are a good size as well. In between, those are the bull's blood beets. And I haven't seen too many big beets coming up from there. But I'm thinking about cutting some of these beet tops off and have some beet greens. Oh, there's one. I can see it coming through the ground. My annual bunching onions are doing great. I've did a pick of carrots. I have quite an assortment. I have all 4 varieties of carrots. I picked those and cleaned them up and brought them into the house. I ended up having to pull out my summertime head lettuce and my Marvel of 4 Seasons lettuce. They both it was so hot that they were just wilted over, and I ended up pulling them up. Oh, look at that zinnia. It's so cute. My holy basil, the Tulsi, and I actually have some dried pods of my Chinese toi choy, So these ones here, I can actually open and take the seeds out, and I'll be able to collect the seeds from those. My cabbage is doing all right. I ended up treating it again with some diatomaceous earth. This head seems to be the biggest out of the 4. And around the other side, these are my yellow pear tomatoes. They took a while to get going, but now I see I've got lots of flowers and there's some tomatoes forming on here. And this is my cayenne peppers. And look at these pretty little flowers. I had these last year and I didn't even notice these pretty purple flowers on them. I can't wait for the peppers to show up. It has quite a few purple flowers on it. So pretty excited about that. Now I want to show you this. This is my old German tomato. And this was the one that I had a tomato beside it and I lopped it off on the ground. So then I ended up putting in a tomato plant. Now this is the tomato plant and I'm not sure what kind of a tomato this is. But then when I was tying this German tomato plant up, I broke off another piece. So what I did was I stuck it in the ground here, and it was really droopy when I first put it in the ground, but it has ended up, it is growing. And I'm like, that's amazing. And then here, this is my Satsuma hybrid. It's just starting to get little buds on them for flowers. So last year I only got 2 peppers on this one, and so we'll have to see what happens with these. But I've even got a little cluster of tomatoes there on that, the old German. So I'm picking my beans, and I just, you know, when you're picking beans, you want to hold on to the plant itself with the one hand, and then you can pull on the bean with the other hand. You don't want to just be yanking on the bean without holding on to the plant, because you could end up ripping the whole plant out, and then that's just not going to help produce and grow the rest of your beans. So you definitely want to be hanging on to the plant, and it's super easy. It takes no time at all to be able to pick the beans. I have a lot in here. These are my tender green bush beans, and they're pretty much everywhere. I picked a basket full of them 4 days ago, and they're already ready to be picked again. So I'm just kind of buzzing through here. I gotta lift them up, look at them from both sides, because you just never know where you're gonna end up having some beans. They're sneaky little beggars. You could miss some. I mean, it's not a big deal if they get overripe. If you're looking at saving seeds, you can actually let those pods dry up, and then once they're dry and a yellow color and they kind of feel kind of papery, that's when you know that they're ready. Kind of like when I showed you my Chinese toy choy. Now these ones here, these are my pole beans, and I definitely have quite a few of these ones that are ready, but with the difference of the bush beans, they are low and close to the ground, whereas my pole beans are higher up, and it actually makes it a lot easier to pick these with them being up on the supports like this. I can easily see them, which ones are ready and which ones are not. There's not a lot, because they're just starting to produce. but I do have to keep an eye on them because you come out here one time and, you know, oh yeah, they're almost ready. And then you come out the next time and it's like, oh my gosh, what have I been doing? I should have been out here picking these before now. So, like I say, there's just a few, but there's tons of flowers on here and you just want to be paying attention to that. I've brought my basket over here to my dragon tongue bush beans, and I have some of these definitely need to be picked. And again, it's the same thing as my tender green. You want to hang on to the plant when you're picking them to make sure that you don't yank the whole plant right out of the ground. And you got to move them around because they are in amongst here everywhere. And I've got quite a few that are ready to be picked. Just making sure I get all of them. Oh yeah, got lots over here too. And it's just a little short 4-foot row. Like, I mean, it's just 3 of us. I mean, I do a lot of cooking, having family and friends over as well. But for the everyday, I don't need any more than just a short little row. And I actually give a lot of it away to my sister-in-law and a dear friend of mine too. I give a lot of produce to them, a lot of the kale and the lettuce. I've been giving a lot of that to them because they don't have, either they don't have a garden or they don't have a very big garden. And I don't mind helping them out as well. So I'm gonna go pick my snap peas next. For my snap peas, a lot of them I could reach from down here, but there are quite a few that are way up here, and the only way that I'm gonna get to them is to climb up on my raised bed frame. You just want to make sure that you have your balance and be careful. It's kind of like that, hey you kids, don't try this at home. But this is how I'm going to be able to get the rest of these peas. So here I go. Gotta move my dried up Chinese toy choy. Watch out for my sunflower. And I'm gonna hang on to this T-post to get up here. Okay. Step right over here. And I'm pretty secure here. I have a foot on each side of my bed. And that way then I have 2 hands are free. Kind of like the beans. You want to hang on to the vine with one hand and pull on the pea with the other. I can do it with one hand. I'll take, and it's kind of like, well, it's not like I'm snapping my fingers, but that idea. I hold the pea with my thumb and my middle finger, and then I just pull my pointer finger through, and it seems to break off fairly easy. But I've got quite a few over here. I think I've got all of them right there. Oh, there's another one underneath. They're like the beans. So now I'm getting to a point that now I'm just standing on this beam, and this is actually a 6-inch across frame, so it's still pretty, it's enough to be standing on, but you definitely don't want to lose your balance on here either. Okay, so this is the kohlrabi that I'm going to pick, and it needs to be about the size of a tennis ball. And I think that looks pretty close to it. So with the kohlrabi, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull this whole thing out, shake off the excess dirt, and there you have it. There's the kohlrabi. And then what you're going to do is you're going to cut this part off and take off all these leaves. You'll just break them off with your hand. You don't have to cut them off. They break off really easy. So here, I'm just going to break these off. And then what I'm going to do with these leaves, after I've broke them all off, because I don't eat this part of the kohlrabi. I'll peel this, cut the top off, cut the bottom off, peel it like an apple, and then you're eating that inside part. And then what I do with these leaves is I see if any pigs are down here. Oh, there's one. And I give them to the pigs. Oh, and they just come running. Because they like that. And there they are. Tails just a wagging. Eating those kohlrabi leaves. Fresh kohlrabi leaves. There you go, girls. Oh! Somebody was doing something they shouldn't have been doing. Well, a cow's kind of a bully. This is the one closest to me. She's always trying to tell them what to do. So, thanks again for joining me today. It's Cheryl here with Caribou Country Lifestyle. And you might want to put a subscribe in there or throw a like in there to give somebody else a chance to see my videos. Something that I might be talking about might interest somebody else that's an avid gardener or beginner gardener that's just looking for a little tools, tricks and tips to be able to help them out with their garden. So thanks again for joining me in this video. I hope you liked it, and we'll see you again the next time. Bye for now.